Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and today I will be discussing on some important topics of political theory, mainly covering the sphere of state. And state, as we all know, it is a political entity that regulates society and population within a defined territory. That is the basic definition of the state that we all know. So first main principle or concept or theory in political theory is basically the theory of idealism. So idealism principle has been developed from past as well, where it states that state is a moral organism. So state has been given a status in this particular regard, and state has a personality with soul. So here we are comparing state with individuals, but also considering that state is a living entity, and it is the duty and obligation of the individual to obey the state for his own good only. And state is a man's ally. This statement means that state always works for welfare of its citizens or its members. And next is state is supreme and sovereign. So we'll be seeing in future regarding social contract theories. In that also we see that individuals give up their rights and make a state. Combining together everyone's rights and liberties, we create a state and give it power. And what state does exactly is state rules upon us, but at the same time it gives us freedom and liberty as well. And lastly, in idealism principle, state is a means to the end, which means that it helps individuals to achieve their goals. So practically, if we take an example of idealism, is basically when state gives opportunities, state give educational opportunities, state gives job opportunities to individuals or participants in that particular states. That is the example of idealism. Next, what are the merits and demerits of idealism? First being the politics and ethics. See, in idealism principle, what is there? Politics and ethics as well. Politics is there, but they do not break the ethics and morality basis. Next, importance of state. So in many times we see that state in some countries, some regions, state is just for the name and for the namesake. But in idealism, there is an importance of state, and individuals consider that they obey the state as well. And in this idealism principle, state has very high ideals or high standards. Where we go to demerits, in demerits there is no difference between state and society. So when we are considering individual also is a living organism, state also is a living organism, then again we cannot distinguish specifically whether this is a society or this is a state. And extreme idealism is very dangerous, and it is just a book concept. It's not implemented, or it is not existed anywhere in this world. Next is individual harm state. So when state gives entire of its freedom to individuals, of course individual will do rebellions and all, so to fight for their rights which they are not given. Freedom is given, but for example in a minority community they are not given their fair share of rights, so they will rebel against the government. So in this case, when in idealism, state is very lenient in nature, so it is very easily to overthrow that particular state and establish a new one. Where comes the last 2 points, that is dictatorship. When overthrowing one state and one person comes on the throne and establishes his era, that is where dictatorship comes into place. And in idealism this happens a lot, where state, we consider state and individual as equal, where state does not have absolute power or absolute sovereignty. That is when state is become overthrown. Next concept, that is next political theory, is mainly on the point of individualism. So individualism is based on an ethical basis, that is basically opposite of what idealism tells you. That is, individual is supreme and there is no state interference. So basically what we have seen in idealism, this is exact opposite of it, where we say state in idealism, we say that state is supreme, individuals are not. In individualism, we say that individuals are supreme, whereas there is no interference of state in this particular regard. Next, J.S. Mill and John Locke, these two political thinkers, have stated the laissez-faire policy or laissez-faire. This laissez-faire is a Latin term which means that leave the individual alone, leave that person alone. He is capable of providing himself, he is capable of doing things. The state need not to be interfering with the individual's personal life. Then Herbert Spencer, this is where the critical statement of Herbert Spencer, where a lot of thinkers, even while we read it, it is very difficult in reading also, because the thought that Herbert Spencer is given is against morality. If you read the Herbert Spencer theory in case of individualism, he states that let the weak die and stronger be alive. That is survival of the fittest. Now if we see in our environment, there is survival of the fittest, where in top of the food chain. So we take example of food chain, lions, tigers and all who are at the top of the food chain dominate and kill others who are below them. That is basically the example of survival of the fittest. But can we apply the same concept in our human society? Of course not. It will not be possible. That is where critiques point out the statements given by Herbert Spencer. So what are the merits in individualism theory? First being it is self-reliant and dynamic. That is basically individuals are there, so they can do whatever they want and they can shape the state as they want, because there is no government interference and individuals are supreme. Next, what are the demerits of individualism? First, negligence of government duties. Not every individual can survive. So here Herbert Spencer, we are taking his statement only, that if there is a concept of survival of the fittest, not every individual can survive, and there is a lot of competition, and this cruel principle that is existing in individualism is what is the main demerit of this entire individualism principle. Next, we go to the democratic socialism. So this concept of democratic socialism somewhere lies in between idealism and individualism. It comes in between. First, it states that it is against selfish individualism. That means that when individualism becomes selfish, when each and every person thinks of their own itself, that is what it's against. Next, it is cooperative instead of competition. So in individualism, there is a lot of competition between each other, whereas in democratic socialism, each and every person cooperate with each other. Next, state suppresses anti-national activities. So here also in individualism, we saw that state does not have any power, individuals are sovereign and supreme. But in democratic socialism, state has certain power, not like idealism but not like individualism. That's why I say it lies somewhere between individualism and idealism. It protects rights of individuals, there is public ownership, and this is what we call as democracy, where we have state, it is sovereign also, but we have the right to oppose the state and its action also. So again, the same criticism that is there, that state has power, it actually has a lot of power, then which can lead to corruption and hardship as well. Next is the concept of liberalism given by the political thinker J.S. Mill. So liberalism itself, if we break it down, liberal, that is liberty. What exactly liberty is? That is freedom, rights. It is liberty in basic sense. It is the ground for individualism as well as idealism. Liberty means what a person can do, up to what extent he has the right to move freely in a society, is what liberty is. And this concept of liberalism, basically many types of liberty are given by J.S. Mill only. First being civil liberty, that is operation of the king. So if we take an example of monarch or dictatorship, if you want to oppose a monarch, whether you have that civil liberty to oppose that monarch or to overthrow that monarch, it is operation of the king, that is called as civil liberty. Fiscal liberty is very simple, that is when there is no cess and no tax, is basically fiscal liberty. Third is social liberty, that when there is no discrimination on the basis of caste and creed, etc., it is called as social liberty. And lastly, personal liberty, whether you can have freedom of speech, whether you can say against that king, monarch, whether you feel like it, if you can say it, then it's your personal liberty. And lastly, what is the political thought of? First, we will see about what is political thought, what is the political thinking ideology of first J.S. Mill. Second, we will see about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. First, about J.S. Mill, it is first self-regarding and other regarding to go together. So what this statement exactly means by J.S. Mill is that individuals are together capable of providing each other to move on forward. Very simple as it is given there. When individuals cooperate together, when individuals work together to fulfill their needs, fulfill their goals, is basically when they are self-regarding and also regarding for others as well. Then we understand by this there is a difference between high and low pleasure. So we can clearly distinguish then. This is the political theory of J.S. Mill. And lastly, individual means no harms to others and only work for welfare of others, and same goes with state as well. Next, the theory of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, the political theory of B.R. Ambedkar, what his political thought was. So there are many opinions as to what Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was telling, what his political thought was. First, I will be telling about two perspectives, and no, I don't mean to harm any sentiments and all. This is just point of views, first given by nationalists and second given by Dalits. Some nationalists say that he was a British agent and he was cooperating with them. Some nationalists say this. These are their opinion. I am not stating any of this. These are their opinion. Next, what Dalits say. Dalits, again, the untouchables that we all know what kind of operations they have went through. They say that he was the god of justice who has provided for them, who has given them rights as well. And then supports Buddhism, supports mind and peace, etc. He opposes Marxist theory as well. And then again, the last point of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's political thought is basically social liberalism. This is again the same liberalism which was stated by J.S. Mill as well. That is basically when state is there to protect individuals' rights. And on this note, I will conclude the said topic of political theory, and you all will get this PDF in the description if you want to check that out. Thank you.